This podcast is brought to you by Amusement Warehouse Magazine, the industry's largest trade publication. We cover amusement parks, carnivals, fairs, festivals, history, safety columns. We really got it all when it comes to the amusement business. Only remaining print publication in the amusement industry on a regular basis. So if you're interested in what the amusement industry has to offer, subscribe today. You can subscribe by logging on to amusementwarehouse.com, carnivalwarehouse.com, or amusementparkwarehouse.com. Welcome to another edition of the Amusement Warehouse Podcast. Today's guest from the land of Lincoln is Rebecca Clark, who's doing some great things out in Illinois with the Illinois State Fair. I've been reading a lot about you over the last couple of years, and you had some impressive results a couple of years, and you've been doing a lot of things, so I'm excited to talk to you.
Well, we are excited to share all the great things about Illinois.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you came from a farm background, right? You worked on, or you lived on a farm with your family. So it's kind of a natural progression, I guess, to eventually claw your way to the top of the state fair business there.
Absolutely. It's kind of a full circle moment for me. Absolutely. I grew up on a farm in Jasper County, production agriculture, no livestock, but our neighbors all had livestock. So I was definitely familiar. But my parents divorced when I was real small. So I spent weekends on the farm, walking beans, mowing lawns, mowing roadside ditches, getting my feet wet. Yes.
And was the fair even a thought, or was it just a cool thing you did? Did you exhibit anything there or show anything there, or did you?
I didn't. You know what? The fair was never on my radar. Our family always vacationed at county fairs. We would do our neighboring county fairs. We always harness racing. We always attended harness racing and demolition derbies and those kind of events. Always walked home with some vanilla taffy. Always, every trip. But I always grew up wanting to be a TV journalist from my very youngest memories. That's all I remember ever wanting to do. And so when I went to school, I actually have a journalism degree. I spent the first 15 years of my professional life in TV news.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you weren't like Jeremy Parsons, who like from birth wanted to work at the. It was almost creepy. He wanted to be the manager for when he's like born.
Jeremy is exactly where he was meant to be. He's got such a great story, and he's been such a great collaborator and an ear to be able to bounce ideas off of. It's really great, our little network of fair managers that we have.
Is it mostly regional, your little network? Was that, I find that a lot where a lot of people talk to people in their area more so than other places. Like, some of my friends that were in New York, like during COVID, this came to mind. Like 5 or 6 or 7 or maybe even 10 county fairs, they would all talk to each other, but they were all in New York, so they weren't getting this other perspective of people outside of New York to a certain extent. But it seems like a lot of people have, like, their friends or whatever that are close by, or something's in common with their fair that they talk to, and that's their kind of network of people to talk to.
Yeah, we do rely quite heavily on our Midwestern fairs, Iowa, Missouri, Indiana, Kansas, Nebraska, those neighboring fairs. But then we also do a really good job of branching out and getting some perspectives from like the Big E, from South Carolina, from Florida, things like that, because it's a little bit helpful when you can rely on a fair like in the South that has just gone through it and take their lessons learned and be able to apply them to yours in the late summer.
Yeah, it was weird because like in the year after COVID, let's say 2021, I'm talking to people in South Carolina or Florida or whatever, or there's events going on, and then you talk to somebody in New York or California, and it was like you were talking to two different planets. It was the craziest thing because they're like, I wonder if anybody will come. I'm like, well, there's fairs running in Florida right now. They're having like record at the really. I can't believe that. But I was a little surprised, or it made you think about things you don't normally think about, but that they didn't speak that much, in some ways. Although I always think of fairs as being pretty well networked, but I was a little surprised that like the fairs from certain places didn't know about what was already going on in different areas of the country. So it just kind of struck me a little bit as to those.
Yeah, I think it really right now what's interesting to learn from our neighboring fairs that are taking place in the winter is how the economy is affecting their fair. So it's not an apples to apples comparison at all, but it is kind of indicative of where consumer spending is and what lessons did you learn and what was the feedback that you gathered, and see if you can maybe apply that in any way to your fair.
Yeah, very true. So how has journalism kind of informed your fair experience? Did you get some skills from journalism that you're able to bring to bear to?
Well, I think in a little bit is maybe a little bit of a marketing. You also have to remember, I have 4 kids, so I'm also the target demographic of the fair of the fair right now, right? Like we go after families, and especially families with young kids, maybe those who are wanting to learn how to show projects or livestock at the fair and getting their feet wet in 4-H and being able to build that new fair goer from the ground up. So in terms of marketing, but I'm also like your target demographic. So I think that's what kind of is helping me. I've also said a lot of prayers, and Mother Nature has really been answering those prayers for me. So that has really lucked out for us the last couple of years.
Yeah, you've had a couple great years. Yeah, worked out really well. One quote that really struck me that I read that you said, and you see this all the time. I know I've experienced it because a lot of people, especially when they're new to the fair business, even though if they've been around it, but until they actually run it, they don't really see the scope of it. But you said, I'm a people pleaser, but I kind of had to learn that you can't please everybody. Because you get I was working a few years back with Cheryl Flood, who's pretty new at the Florida State Fair, and she's like, "Rob, we're getting all these complaints on Facebook." And I'm like, "Well, what's all these complaints?" And there were 8 people or something complaining about it. And I said, "Well, yeah, but we had 50,000 people today. Does that mean 49,992 were happy and 8 complained, or because at some point you have to make a." I was in a meeting last night and they were talking about dates, because it's similar. You can always find a problem. Well, this week is this, that week is that. It always rains that weekend. At some point you gotta choose a path and go, because it's going to be impossible to please everyone, because you just can't. It's just too many people, too many opinions.
Yep. I think I also get that training also in my own household with 4 kids. Like, I'm not going to please everybody. No one is going to like always having corn dogs for dinner, right? Like, so let's go with, but you're absolutely true. Today's day and age of social media provides an outlet for everyone to voice their opinion. And I love that, because I actually do love to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly about every fair, because that's how we learn, that's how we grow, and that's how we improve. But you're right. You can't please everyone. And that was a really hard lesson to learn. And so you just got to lay it out there and hope for the best sometimes. And you're right. We had more than 770,000 fairgoers attend the fair last year. We were doing something right. Yes, there were a few outliers that might not have been happy with the performer, this performer, or that performer, or what, but we were doing something right. As 770,000 people came through the gates.
Yeah, it's really tough, because you do want to make everybody happy, and you don't want to be, I don't want to say cold, but it's not really being cold, but analytical in a way, because but you have to step back from it and look at the numbers and look at, like you said, 770,000 people. Your attendance is growing. So people, by definition, are happy. And, not everybody uses social media to complain or praise. Some people just walk away, like they, in the old days, they don't go if they're not happy. And if they're happy, they come back. That's the bottom line. And they can sit there on social media and complain and say whatever they want and do whatever they want. But it's tough. In New York, I work a little bit with the New York State Fair once in a while. And every complaint letter starts the same way. It goes, I've been coming to the fair for 30 years, and this is the absolute worst year I ever had because of some, it's usually some kind of slight that they had in some way or something that, didn't go their way. But it's just so dramatic. It wasn't like, hey, I had some problems with my ticket. It was, they have to make it the worst year they ever had and the worst experience they ever had. And it's tough to read because it's not. But you got to listen to them and respond to them. But it's really difficult.
I actually have a letter or a file, and I keep all of my hate mail, and I actually respond if they provide their mailing address and on their envelope. I always respond, and I thank them for taking the time to tell us about their fair experience, because I think it's important that you acknowledge it and promise that we will strive to do better. I think we're really in this era, at least in Illinois, where we're really trying to reinvent the fair and make sure that it is relevant for today's fairgoers. Everyone has an entertainment device in the palm of their hand. Like, I'm competing against this with my 10-year-old right now to get their attention, right? And so giving them something that they want to do and that they are willing to put down their phone for. And if they're not willing to put down their phone for, will they at least capture that image and share it with the world and use that to tell the world about your state fair experience? And so for some, change is hard. This tent has been in this location, or we've always come to see this on this. And regardless, I think it's important that you strike that right balance between finding something new and bringing in new elements while still maintaining that nostalgia and those things that people have come to know and love about the Illinois State Fair. And that's really what we're trying to do here in Illinois.
Yeah, any change you make is always met with resistance to a certain extent. I mean, there's zillions of people who love the new thing, but there's always a few that, that was my favorite thing and you took it away, and
or it's tweaked just so slightly. Yeah, but that's okay. I think it's all in communicating ahead of time so that people are aware, so people know, and so that's part of the game.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting problem. It's a constant problem because you face it every year with what you should bring in that's new, what you should bring in that's different, or what should stay the same. And the people that bring in the same acts or the same whatever year after year, they'll say, oh, well, there's a lot of people looking at it. Well, yeah, that's true. But you always want to capture some of the new people or get some people that maybe aren't coming and figure out why not. Or will this attract them as opposed to that? Or are they getting bored of the same thing year after year? But, it's always a dilemma, always an interesting problem.
That's how you grow, by bringing in new things and bringing in new things that will interest new people. Because again, this is what we're competing with.
It's true. So what are some of the ways you're combating the dreaded phone? Do you collect them at the gate? Do you pick them up from people?
I'm harnessing the power of this phone. We introduced a selfie gallery where we're encouraging you to use that phone, take your pictures, and share them with the world. And that way you're helping promote our fair and you don't even realize it. But we introduced a selfie gallery a few years. And so there are 12 different pods, and then 12 different individual pods that you can take a picture in. We're adding in a few illusion with some mirrors to be able to create some cool effects this year. And then we have different picture photo spots throughout the ground so that we can harness the power of that phone, put it to work. And then also, we've also really taken an overhaul on our social media presence and engaging with influencers and things like that to be able to attract that younger demographic.
Yeah, the influencers is an interesting new twist to everything, because it's such an undefined territory to a certain extent, because everybody's an influencer, or at least I'll tell you they are to a certain extent. So you got to really, it's not like you have metrics like you did in TV that are a little, I mean, you do, but who knows if they're real or what the engagement is, or if they're real or if they're from your local area or, where they're from. So it's a little bit trickier, but you know, a lot of people are reaching out more and more for it. And you know, pricing of those things is just, again, like the Wild West, because people can say whatever they want to charge, and you know, again, it's not easy to do on a cost per point or cost per thousand or whatever else basis, because it's not as quantifiable. There's no, I mean, I know there's some sort of third party analysts that look at those things, but you know, how good is the information that you're doing? So you really got to have a team to vet and figure out who's good and who's doing some good work with it.
Yeah.
It's the influencer Wild West there with certain things.
They're
not afraid to ask for stuff. Some of these people, it's crazy. They have a couple of posts and they think they're I don't know, superstar or something like that.
Well, if you can't beat them, join them. We're
Yeah, it's funny because you're talking about being a TV journalist, and about, I don't know how many years ago it was, I forget, but you know, at some point you realize the power of the fair. Like, you know, as newspaper readership dwindled, you know, at a fast rate, and the same with TV, to a certain, especially like news dwindled, you realize how powerful the fair was. I mean, at one point I was thinking, I was at a fair and, you know, there was not a crisis, but you know, an issue come up, and they were like, oh, there's gonna be an article in the paper. And then I was thinking, you know, we have more people in our email list than the paper has subscribers. We're really a powerful medium, you know, in a lot of ways. So you can really, you know, before it was like you were beholden if a newspaper article came out and it was negative, it was the end of the world or something like that. But it, you know, now sometimes I'm not even sure people notice them. You know, it's like does any, maybe some older people, but do other people read it? You know, is it even a factor?
Right, and it's making sure that we're using that stature for good, right?
Yeah, of course.
So it's a great way for us to be able to make sure that we're supporting our community, because the Illinois State Fair is an economic engine for our small community. We're in small central Illinois, right? We don't have the population base that an Iowa has or an Indiana has. We are super small rural America right here. And so making sure that we can use our platform for good by introducing things like our sensory friendly fair initiative to be able to make sure that we're inclusive, that we're being able to help those in our community who wouldn't have never been able to attend a fair because it's just too much and too overwhelming for them. So finding ways to introduce, to be able to help and support that community. Like I said, this fair is an economic engine for this little small community here. We put people to work. We bring people to town. Those people are staying in our hotels. They're eating in our restaurants. They're visiting our grocery stores. And there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that. And so making sure that we are a good steward of our taxpayer dollars, that we are good community members. It's all part of being the Illinois State Fair.
Yes, I saw about the sensory day you had. There's a lot of people working on those sorts of things. That's a neat initiative that a lot of people do. Did you have it like before they opened, and what kind of things did you do to, you know, make that happen and make it happen for everybody?
So we, well, a couple of things. We have a dedicated location, a sensory station inside an air-conditioned building, centrally located here on the fairgrounds, that is open every day of the fair. And in there's trained staff. We partnered with some local resources here in town, but also Culture City, which is world-renowned for their work to help with those with sensory processing sensitivities. And so we train our staff on how to be able to provide help when someone comes into this area. And it's stocked full with all of the tools and resources that someone needs to be able just to reset and recenter and calm down and refocus, maybe be able to go out and tackle the rest of the day or try another experience on the fairgrounds. And then we also have sunflower hours on the first Saturday of our fair, where that's Kids Day. So from 9 to noon, we tone down all of the acts that we have here on the fairgrounds. It's already a time when people are just starting to come into the fair, so it's already a softer time anyway. But all of our free entertainment acts, they don't use their sounds or their microphones. They just kind of do a natural amplification so that kids still get to experience all of those free entertainment acts. The carnival will operate will operate a few of their rides that without their lights and sounds and stuff like that for individuals who need some help, so they can still experience the carnival. And then we've also seen over the years that other entities within the fair also come on board and try and adopt these philosophies to be able to help offer these services to kids and adults who need them as well.
How popular has it been? Do you get a lot of participation, or?
It's growing. We started it in 23. And so each year we see it growing a little bit more each year. It's another one of those things. It's something new. We've got to educate people about that it's available and it's here.
Yeah, no question. No question. Yeah, I see a lot of fairs doing either rooms like you're talking about or places where they're having special days or special hours or whatever it might be that they do. But it's you learn a lot, as you do it over the years, what works and what doesn't work. Yeah. And it's another thing though too, where you can't kind of please everybody. It's tough because everybody has different things they'd like to see, at the event. So you have to pick and choose eventually what you want to do and what you can do, I guess, to a certain extent without. Right. And then you got to think about all the rest of the people that come to the fair too, what their experience is going to be like or what they need. But that, it's a neat thing. It's a great initiative. It's really, a lot of fairs are really adopting things like that. So it's pretty neat. When you first, so you had a journalism background coming to the fair. When you first, sort of came to the fair, what were the areas of the fair that you thought were going to be the most challenge for you that maybe you didn't have the most experience in, or you had to learn a little bit about? Like what areas did you say, I really need to read up on this or talk to some people about what the best thing to do is?
Well, I was really fortunate, actually, in that when I came to this chair, I also already had a little bit of experience with the Illinois State Fair. So when I left TV News, my first job was with the Illinois Department of Agriculture as their communications manager, which runs the communications efforts for the Illinois State Fair and the DuQuoin State Fair. So I was already indoctrinated into the operation. I was already, had a head start on learning from the fair manager that came before me about the ins and outs in the operation and where the struggles were. So I kind of had a head start. So after I left with the Department of Agriculture to be the communications manager there, I transferred to the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, where I ran crisis communications for the agency, which included crisis communications for the longest flood in Illinois history and also the COVID-19 crisis. So I already had crisis communications and emergency planning under my belt before I came to this chair. So it really was able to really help me spearhead a lot of the security initiatives that we're working on to make sure that this is a safe environment for our families and fairgoers to attend. Because today's day and age it's not your grandpa's state fair anymore, and the threats that are out there are real and they're evolving as we speak. So making sure that you have the resources, the tools, and the connections to stay on top of that was really important for us, and we're continuing to add and enhance those features each year. But also it gave me the insight to be able to find the location to add a sensory station, because I saw that there was already one area of the fair that needed redeveloped. And so I think that really actually helped me when I came to this seat.
But when it comes to budgeting or booking entertainment or the midway or food or whatever it was, did you have a lot of experience in those areas, or were any of them?
Yeah. So budgeting, the budget process, I never had to craft my own department's budget. Right. So that was a learning curve for me, but we have a great team here at the Illinois State Fair, and people who have been here for decades. And so leaning on your team members to be able to walk us through that navigation and be able to, okay, well, if we move money here to here, that opens up this to be able to do this initiative. And so not only is this a great team with lots of experience, but they're also very open-minded, and they want to do what's best for the fair. And they see that by moving some things around and creating new ideas and new areas, and we're able to do it all within budget. So that's been super great.
And entertainment, did you have much experience in that thing, or did you?
Well, definitely in the promoting of the entertainment.
Right.
But we've had the same booking agent for decades as well. And so I'd already worked with him in the past. So it was just in sliding into a new role in that movement.
Were there changes you wanted to see when you came in? Like, were there different types of acts you wanted to book, or different things to do, or did you just kind of let them continue doing what they do?
No, I think what we do when we sit down and we plan is we try and keep in mind who is today's fairgoer, right? That's evolved.
Yeah, you mentioned that before, so I was curious if that informed.
So that definitely it helps inform all of the decisions that we're making. And I don't know that had happened previously because I wasn't involved in the early bookings before I came to this chair. But I think when we sit down, it's keeping that central theme in mind when we're booking is who is today's fairgoer and how will this be a good experience for them. So when you're looking at, your free entertainment stages, making sure that you're doing your research on, how many followers does this person have, and just really getting the pulse of your community. Because not everything that goes well in Springfield will go well in Des Moines, Iowa, or in Indianapolis, Indiana. While we're neighboring states and we Midwest share the same Midwestern values, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will play in this audience.
No, of course not. So because when you're saying the new fairgoer, I was curious, like if that had an effect on entertainment, if you made changes specific, because and I don't know how you change the acts, because the acts are kind of the acts. There's not a whole lot of. I've been on that a little bit lately with some fair managers. Like actually after COVID, it's like I think the breadth of acts that are out there is diminished to a certain extent. So I would like to see. I don't know. You see some of these shows where they have not even America's Got Talent, but maybe just some of the TV shows that show people doing crazy things. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that we could possibly be bringing to the fair, to inform. But I don't know what those efforts are, or who does them. Is it the agents? Is it who is it to possibly bring some new talent into the fair industry itself, and get some people that are on social or wherever they might be and performing to bring them in.
I'll tell you what. One of the we brought in my first year, we brought in a mullet competition.
Mullet, okay.
A mullet competition. And my goodness, I have never seen a free stage so packed and crowded. And the photos were everywhere in the days following. It was really something to see, but it's something that you don't think of it, right? It's not something that you think of every day of, oh, I'm going to go see a mullet competition, or, oh, I'm going to go and book that. It was something that organically happened that we started to notice, because on our fairgrounds are used 365, and we had a lot of livestock events. And we were just noticing all these kids with mullets. And then my son, my 10-year-old, came home and he's like, Mom, can I grow a mullet? No, you can grow your hair, but you cannot have a mullet. But it's those things that you start seeing it, and it was really fairgrounds gold out there for a while, and we had it for 2 years. It was such a big production. It was so much fun to watch. I mean, if you're a people watcher, it was fantastic to sit there and watch, and it was fun to see them all compete and shake their manes, and it was one of those things that you don't think about, but it was fairgrounds gold.
That's great. I mean, those kind of things that people don't think about, and that's a thing that you didn't have to pay a lot of money for necessarily, and it was just some creativity that you had to bring it in. Years ago, there's a fair I worked with. They used to have a dance competition. It was a pretty big size fair. And, one of the things in Dance Moms was popular at the time. So I got a couple of the Dance Moms people to be judges, on the final day. And I had them do a bunch of social, and they did, enter now. And then, will be winning. And then I had them do a bunch of stuff along the way for the semifinals, and they came and judged the finals. We had some other people for the semifinals, but it really, helped blow it up.
Yeah.
Something that was just a, kind of a mundane thing, but it gave a little celebrity to it. But I think there's opportunities out there to do stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Creative.
Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America right now. And this year we're going to try our luck at a pickleball tournament during the fair. It's an audience, a built-in audience that will already come to your fairgrounds. We saw the same thing a couple of years ago with little kids. We did a character brunch where we had all these princesses come, and you would have a little snack buffet and get to mingle and meet with all these princesses. And we brought them out just like maybe an hour or 2 hours before the carnival opened. So they were already here, and then they stayed and they visited the carnival and they ate lunch, and you're bringing pockets of people to the fair and hoping that they'll stay and enjoy and experience the rest of the day at the fair.
Yeah, and everything reaches out to a little different segment. It's funny you mentioned pickleball, because I think that's a great idea with things. But like the CNE years ago used to have one of the largest table tennis tournaments in North America during the fair. It was huge, because I happen to play table tennis competitively, and my coach, who was number 17 in the world at one time,
wow.
he said, I looked at the tournament because I told him what business I was in. He goes, man, the CNE tournament, we used to always go up there. It was such a good time. We all played. And I talked to some people at the CNE, and they don't even remember it, but it was a big, big tournament. They had, thousands of people playing in it, and it was a big deal. And I wonder if, some sports competitions, now you mentioned pickleball, which is the perfect thing to do, because it's so universally popular. You could, especially, are you gonna have like professional level, like big prizes or anything? Or
so this is the first year, so we will have prizes, cash prizes available, but we're going to start small. I'm a big proponent of start small and grow big. So we're starting this year with we'll have adult and youth competitions.
Okay.
It's a 1-day doubles round robin tournament, and so we're going to see how it goes.
That's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. Maybe you can get some. I know Andre Agassi's playing pickleball nowadays, or those guys don't get much money, even when they win. So for probably a little bit of money, you could probably get a pretty big star to play in it, or participate, or do something with it. Now, Agassi would probably be some money because he's a tennis player, but
need to look for some Illinois natives that have hit it.
Yeah, some of you came from Illinois, or John, or people that are way up there that are well known in the pickleball setting, But again, you can, it's not like you're going to hire Rafa Nadal or Roger Federer or something. They'd be happy probably to make an appearance for $1,000 or a couple $1,000 or something like that.
You think that's all it would cost? A couple $1,000?
Yeah, I don't think I looked at the prize money one time, and it was not much. It was, even some of these bigger tournaments they play was not much at all. Kind of like table tennis. I mean, like the national championships, I think the guy gets like 10,000 or something like that. It's not a big thing. They have a professional league now where they get a few dollars, but people make appearances for because it's a struggle to be a professional, because there's not a lot of money in it.
Right.
Not a lot of money.
There's also all those. I know that I saw a couple days ago the ESPN2 was airing like Tiger Woods playing golf simulators. That's easy. Well, let's do that too.
Yeah, do something like that, or I wonder. Like video games too, you see some of these competitions when that's going to be, or there's a way to adapt that. The problem is it's kind of insular. I don't know why you could watch it, but it'll be a big screen, or you need something.
Well, and that wasn't an idea that we floated around and haven't really figured out how to do it. But there's an entire iRacing series, and I think that, and I might be wrong, but I think that there was a movement to get the Illinois State Fair, which is home of the world's fastest dirt track, 1 mile dirt track, have it scanned so that folks could race on the world's fastest dirt track. And so if the iRacing series, setting up those simulators, the problem is that sometimes it's just so dusty and hot, and finding a location to keep all that equipment safe is just a little bit challenging. But, there's all kinds of of ways to incorporate our fair into that if the conditions were correct.
Yeah, it's almost overwhelming because you think of all these ideas and you can only do so many, right? The next year, so you have to kind of land on something. But it's, when you start brainstorming and thinking, you're like, wow, we could do this, we could do this, we could do that. And they're all pretty neat ideas.
It's always working. It's always noodling up here, right? But at the end of the day, it's also trying to find a way to bring that back to ag, right? To find a way to bring agriculture into everything that we're doing. We're an ag fair. Like I said, we're the heart of Illinois and central Illinois and rural communities. So finding ways to be able to incorporate ag into those fun new ideas is always a fun challenge as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned before that the DuQuoin Stairs, so Illinois is one of the few states that has 2 official state fairs.
Yeah.
I believe, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure DuQuoin is the biggest fair in the country area-wise.
Like acreage. Wow.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, DuQuoin is absolutely beautiful. Their fairgrounds, in Springfield, we are a very concrete heavy fairgrounds, but in DuQuoin, total different story. There's just greenery. Their campground is so large and beautiful.
The whole town lives there during the fair. It's like they all move on. I mean, RV, it's the craziest thing. They all like move on to the fairgrounds during the fair. It's incredible.
It's a beautiful fairgrounds.
And you got that big house right in the middle of there. The guy that used to own the Coke place or something like that.
Some good fishing ponds.
Yeah.
I have not had the best of luck, but it doesn't stop me from trying.
Is it still like free admission there in DuQuoin?
Yeah, they still have free admission. You only pay to park, and you don't have to park on the grounds. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you'd even gate it. It would be like impossible. It's so big.
It is very large. Yes.
That's a neat fair. It's a neat fair, and it's neat that you have 2 state fairs, which is very unusual in the country.
Well, it's really a great opportunity to help stimulate the economy down in southern Illinois as well. I spoke about how we are an economic engine for central Illinois. They are an economic engine for southern Illinois, which is a fantastic benefit for that community.
Yeah, no question about it. So entertainment-wise, you have the dirt track. Do you do races during the fair at all or no?
We have 5 days of harness racing, 2 days of auto racing, and then 9 nights of concerts at our grandstand.
Do you get dirt everywhere when you run the dirt track? I live a dirt track in Middletown, New York. I think it's the oldest in the country, and 100 and some years old. And the dirt is brutal when they race. It's like a cloud of dirt comes over the fairgrounds.
We don't accept rain here in Illinois during the fair, so we do have a water truck that taps down that dust. I will say on race days, on car race days, it does get a little dusty, but that's okay. That's okay. It's fun to be able to say that you raced on the world's fastest dirt track. Like, who wouldn't want that accolade? Who wouldn't want that acknowledgement?
What kind of cars do you race on this?
Stock cars. Cars. We have ARCA and USAC also. Their series runs here, both in Springfield and in DuQuoin, actually.
Do you have a demo still or no?
We have a demolition derby. Yes, it's in our multi-purpose arena. In our multi-purpose arena, we'll have monster trucks. We'll have a rodeo. We'll have 3 nights of truck and tractor pulls, and then we'll have a demolition derby.
Now, are you still betting on these demolition derbies with your grandfather? Is that something you still do?
That's something we do at the county fair, and I will tell you that
taking the poor guy for his money.
My grandpa has passed, but that was a tradition. And we didn't bet money; we bet a Pepsi. Pepsi. So when 8-year-old Becky would lose, she would just go steal a Pepsi out of Grandpa's fridge and go give it to him.
And give it back to him.
Yeah.
Wow. I thought that was cute.
I think he liked it, but I think Grandma liked it more.
That's amazing. How are you doing with the concerts, the 9 nights of concerts? That's a tough business to be in. That's a tough business to be in.
It is. There are so many venues these days. There's a lot of competition out there. And so, yes, we have 8 of our 9 concerts announced, looking to announce our 9th concert next week. And then our lineup will be full. We've got the Black Crows, Megan Maroney, Cheryl Crow, Snoop Dogg, the Chainsmokers, Def Leppard, and Turnpike Troubadours, with one more still to be announced.
I had Snoop Dogg at an event we did a few years back, but it was like a festival, so everything was timed, and it was actually 3 different places he played. He was late every time for the thing. Like, hello, oh, he hasn't left the hotel yet. Like, but he goes on in 2 minutes here. So what are you gonna do? But he drew a lot of people. He did great, but
that's great.
He was a challenge with the on time delivery there.
Everyone asks if Martha Stewart is coming with him. That's the question that we get the most.
Yeah, he's so like mainstream now with things. It's almost incredible how he reaches across all these lines. What was it? The Super Bowl, or he's doing something.
He was at the Olympics. He was
Olympics. That's what it was. It was the Olympics. Yeah.
On The Voice. He did the Super Bowl halftime show a couple years ago. Yeah.
It's incredible. How big a venue? How many tickets can you sell?
So our grandstand holds 14,700.
Okay, that's a good size.
Yeah.
That's a good size. And is it a money maker most years, or money loser, or is it a?
Well, it just depends. It just depends on the year. So far, the last couple years, it's been a money maker. There are some years when it's not a money maker. There are some years that it's just a wash, and that's okay. What's important is I think that we're like I said earlier, we're bringing people to town.
And when you calculate, especially on a state organization, a loss or a gain, do you do it purely based upon tickets, or how do you calculate a loss or gain? Because if you're not calculating midway spend and things you get, it's not fair, because those all go into it. But a lot of times the accountants don't let you include that in there, and they say, "Well, it lost money." They say, "Wait a second, I got $4.84 from every person that walked through for my average midway, and I got so much for the gate," and you're not including those things.
Right. You have to look at the whole picture. It's not fair to just look at one area. You have to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, they just do ticket sales. Well, you sold 20,000 of tickets, and the act was 30,000, so you lost 10,000. So yeah, but they bought beer, and they rode rides, and they did this.
They paid to get in. They bought a turkey leg on the way out. They bought mini donuts on the way out. They spent 5 hours in the carnival with their kids prior to. Yeah, you have to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, especially money that's coming back to you, not just in a flat rent, let's say, but in like a carnival where it's a percentage or something. That's a big factor. You gotta include that, because we do have ways to make a little bit more money beyond the grandstand. So that's a big factor to help you push you over the edge sometimes with those things.
I got to ask you, Ron, what's your favorite part of a fair?
My favorite part of the fair, I guess it would depend upon the fair. Like, the Big E, the buildings are really cool, going through the buildings to watch that. But I don't know if I'd say the buildings in other places. I like some good entertainment, especially if it's interesting to me, or it's a little different. I don't go for the mundane. I get real, even fireworks show. I just get bored nowadays. After you see your 8 billion fireworks show, it's just kind of like, so the new stuff really, really interests me. I mean, I do like, and I sound like a broken record, but I said it 8 million times, but I said it to Marla. We had a big discussion about it, but like the ag shows that they have, I want to be interested. I really do. I don't, but I grew up in New Jersey, North Jersey, New York area, and I don't know anything about how to judge animals. And, most fairs don't tell you what they're judging. So I can sit there in that bleacher and watch it. And I've done it, I can't tell you how many times, at different fairs of small, large, and there's just no education going on. I say no, I usually speak in hyperbole. I'm sorry. I'm sure there's some fairs that do it. But by and large, if you're a stranger to that, you have no idea what's going on. And I'm curious. I want to know, is it a shaggy tail that they're looking for, or thick legs, or whatever, a red nose, or whatever they're looking for, and what I'm maybe guessing isn't what they're judging. But
it's a great point, because normally, if I think about it, I learn what the judge is looking for when the judge takes the microphone at the end of the show after he's evaluated everyone, and then he's talking and explaining about what he was looking for. And this animal had this, and this. But you're right. If that was explained a little bit up front, you would have a little bit more knowledge. You know, we do a lot with our youth here, and I think that we have a couple of shows which are great to get your feet wet if you're a non-ag person. If you're a non-farm family and you wanted to get your first taste of a livestock show, I would point you to one of our Pee Wee Pig shows. It's entertaining, but it also is that first introduction. It gets you. It's the hook that gets your kids interested and gets you paying attention, because sometimes they'll dress their animals up in a bonnet or a colorful costume or something like that. But they're also showing their animals. And so it's a great way to infuse entertainment in with that livestock showing. So it teaches them about it. And then they can branch out and feel more comfortable going to other shows and learning about other species.
Yeah, I think that's a huge area that's potential improvement. Because even like on social or something, because, you know, they do it with sports all the time, but why can't you kind of make like little celebrities out of some of the animals, you know, like this guy's won 3 in a row and he's undefeated, you know, something like that, and hype up the competition a little bit and do the thing. And, maybe 10-year-old Rebecca, or Rod nowadays, I want to be able to bet on those animals and see who's going to win for a Pepsi. But I can't, because I don't know the rules, so I don't know what to do. It's like, you know, I always say I feel like I'm a Martian who's watching a basketball game. I have no idea what they're doing. They're like dribbling some orange ball, and I don't know what they're doing, you know, but nobody tells you. But, you know, I think it's a great opportunity. And you say the Pee Wee show, but if I'm a person, just me, and I just show up and I know nothing about it, I'm not going to go, you know, where do I even find that out? Do I root through some book or something, or go online and say, hey, if you know nothing about agriculture, go to this one. So there's, you know, it's a very, and I think about this a lot, and, you know, just from an academic standpoint, like, you know, you're studying something, you know, the agriculture part is great, and they have a lot of stuff, but it's not done a great job, at least in all the years I've been in the fair business, about really bringing that to the people, to open it up and to explain to them what the heck is going on and why it's going on. And there's so much opportunity there, and we want to be about agriculture. And I think that's great. But if we're not presenting to them, and it ties into what you're saying before, that people are changing and whatever else, if we don't connect with them and we don't explain it to them, you know, I don't know what we're doing except for having some insular, you know, I asked one time when I was naive and young, I was like, well, why do you even have the thing during the fair? You don't invite anybody over here to see anything. You know, like, why don't you just have it last week or something? It doesn't really matter.
Yep. We also have a showmanship competition, a celebrity showmanship competition, where we invite like the mayors and all those things to be able to come out and try their hand at showing a calf, try their hand at showing a barrow. And it's a small step that we do to be able to introduce non-ag folks into this world and get them that experience, get their feet wet, if you will, maybe a little muddy, maybe a little dirty. But yes, I think also it's really important for us that we include our livestock schedule in our promotional materials that we send out. So we have a promotional book that we put together. So, you know, you're maybe looking for when the Def Leppard concert is, but on the very next page, you can see when our livestock shows are, and easy ways to be able to get them with show times and things like that. So, but you're right. We as an industry can do a whole lot more. And that's one of the challenges that we are looking to tackle here in Illinois.
That's great.
What about fair food? Do you have a favorite fair food?
You know, fried stuff and me just don't go great. I love it. You know, I like that, like up in the north. So like a sausage and pepper sandwich up north, I like a lot. Once in a while is good. And one of my fairs up in New York, one time we did a fried cannoli, and that was actually very, very good, believe it or not. And the guy was like an Italian vendor. He had a real cannoli and stuff, and he fried it, and it was really good. You don't see it a lot, but I thought that would be a great thing to have in certain places. How about you? You love
So in Illinois, my favorite, and I can eat many donuts.
Oh, I read it, and I can't remember what it was. Like apple cider or something?
Yes, it's an apple cider slushy with a dollop of ice cream inside, and it's an apple cider float, but it tastes like apple pie a la mode. And it is the most refreshing thing on a hot August day. I will tell you, I had so many of them when I was pregnant with the triplets. It was my go-to every day at 5 o'clock. They had it waiting for me because they knew I would be by like clockwork. 5 o'clock. Becky needs a slushy float.
That's amazing. Yeah, there's so many great foods that people have in their competitions that they do. Do you have like a unusual fair food award?
We do. We have a contest. We have the Golden Abes because Springfield, everything is named after Abe Lincoln.
Oh, Abe's. I thought you said apes. Okay, gotcha.
No, Abe's like Abe Lincoln. So we have the Golden Abes where we encourage our fair vendors to go head to head for the best savory, the best sweet. And we even last year we introduced a category for best like dietary. I don't remember what we called it, but it was especially for entries that were gluten-free, vegan, or lactose-free. And so we award a winner in each 3 categories and then an overall winner. We do that on the second day of the fair. And then we hold people's choice voting for all of those throughout the fair so that the fairgoers can come out, try all those dishes, and then vote for their favorite. And then we award cash prizes on the second weekend of the fair to our winners.
Wow. And do the new foods go over big? Do they sell well, or is it like more of a promotional thing?
No, they do a lot to create a bunch of buzz for the fair because a lot of people think of music, concerts, and food when they think of the fair. And so the food always creates a big buzz. You know, we just finished our 100 day out celebration last week. And we brought a bunch of fair food vendors to town so that people could get their first taste of fair food. And there were lines beyond lines, even on a little bit of a cloudy, rainy day. People love fair food. I don't know what it is, but people love fair food.
Yeah, in COVID, really, when we had those fair food drive-throughs and stuff like that, it really showed that food it's almost a standalone thing. It really drives a lot of people to go to the fair and things they can't get at other times of year.
Which fairs are you going to this year? Do you have a list of places that you'll be traveling to this year?
Do I have a list? Well, I'll be at the Orange County Fair in Middletown, New York, because I run it in July. And I've been looking at some other fairs going to this year because I do want to visit a few that I haven't been to in a while. So I was thinking about Labor Day. I was trying to decide which ones to go to Labor Day, but maybe Illinois is on my list now.
Du Quoin will be open on Labor Day. Their closing day is on Labor Day.
Yeah, but I can't get there. I have to fly into California and then take a shuttle plane over here and then a boat and then something else. And then you finally get, I think I flew into St. Louis and we drove to Du Quoin. It was 2.5 hours or something crazy like that.
Yeah. It's a 4-hour, I think it's a 4-hour drive for me from Springfield to Du Quoin, but you could do St. Louis or you could do Paducah. You could fly into St. Louis or Paducah and do the short hop over.
Paducah, Kentucky. I flew in there once too, actually. Yeah, there's definitely a few fairs I want to get to that I haven't been to either ever or in a while. So, but it's weird because a lot of the bigger fairs are all clumped together at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to kind of pick and choose to a certain extent unless you got a lot of time on your hands. And then, like you with the kids, they have the summer off, so everybody's running around doing something, and then all of a sudden it's over, and then it's September, and you're doing what you're doing.
That's one of the things that we struggle with here in Illinois is that school starts back during the middle of our fair run. So the kids are out of school for the first weekend, and they typically go back on Wednesday. So we start August 7th, and kids will go back to school August 13th, but our fair closes on the 17th. So that's one of the things that we struggle is being able to bring people out midweek And so we've done a lot of things like introducing a lot of promotions to be able to help with that return traffic on during the week.
So with, you said advertising is one of your strengths. I mean, that has changed so much even recently, you know, are you doing a lot of traditional media or almost none now, or
no,
where are you with your thinking on?
Yeah, we do some traditional media still. We still do some radio and TV. But
we broadcast, huh?
Yeah, we do TV. We do our local TV. We have 3 local stations here, so we will do some local TV.
Are you biased because you're a performer fresh?
No.
Nope.
No, I don't. Not because of that. But we do still do a little bit of traditional media. But we're starting to shift a lot of our heavy focus towards digital.
Yeah, and you know, we need to start a thing, and you might be a good person to be on my team. We have to redefine the word digital, because digital is like this one all-encompassing word that means everything. And like, you know, people, okay, so you're informed, you know what you're talking about. But if I'm talking to a county fair manager, especially if they're like older and they think digital, well, I don't know what they think. So they think digital is Facebook, or they think digital is something else. And it's just such a terrible catch-all word. It's like, you know, saying Coke and you mean any kind of soft drink or something like that. It's because, you know, you have streaming audio, streaming video, you have, you know, display and you know, emails. You have all the things you could do, and you just say digital.
So many, there's so many platforms within the digital umbrella for people to learn, and they don't all, especially when you're talking about a county fair, they may not all be applicable for that county fair. Especially here in Illinois, some of our rural areas still struggle with being able to have broadband. So it's really about knowing your audience, where they're getting their media, where they're getting their information from, and harnessing that. Because, you know, putting a video on a gas pump display may not work for everybody.
Yeah, most of my business is advertising for fairs. I mean, I still run a few things, but I buy a lot of media for different fairs all over the place. And I always look at the cable rates, like to see what percentage and they're just falling off the cliff. It's almost crazy, because I love cable for a long time. You know, I love being able to buy Nickelodeon and all those channels that would hit, you know, kids, and you get the moms too. And it was great. And then just like the last 4 years or 5 years, it's like I've gone from, you know, doing a little bit of both to less and less and less. And now I buy very little cable, if at all. But, you know, if I see an anomaly, like you're saying, where people still have strong cable rates, but it's harder and harder to find. It's almost impossible. You know, sometimes there's a strong local news component, like News 12 on Long Island and up in New York, they have News 12 that run, and some people want to buy that. But, you know, even the broadcast news, and I don't want to insult your former profession, because it's not meant to be an insult, but
no, you're fine.
Like, I don't know anybody who watches it anymore. I really don't. I mean, I know I haven't for a long time, but then I talk to people I know, and people, you know, forget people younger than me. They don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have to get pretty old to have somebody who actually watches the news, you know, on a regular basis, you know, as far as a general profile goes.
Yeah. But here in central Illinois, like some of our rural areas still struggle with broadband. So those entities probably still do watch the news because they don't have the luxuries of being able to stream, to cut the cord and do streaming devices. And so that's why I say anytime that I'm talking to someone in our county fair network or something, it's really know your audience, because without it, you're just making uninformed decisions.
Yeah. Well, now, you know, I've been using a lot lately. I'm probably going to do the top 50 list this way, because I get a lot of, I buy like some AI and cell phone data and things. And, you know, I've been sort of beta testing it with some fairs that I trust their numbers, and it's unbelievable how accurate the numbers are. You know, because I did one fair who gave me their attendance and it was like half, and I was like, "Whoa, maybe this thing's not right." But then I did some fairs that I know they're giving me good numbers, and they're right on. So it's probably that the fair wasn't really giving me a pretty good number for the top 50. But you know, that data that you have. And it even gives you data on what medium they're responding to, what type of ads work best and it's crazy the data you can get from things. I mean, even cloning audiences. Now I just did a couple of projects where I had an email list and then they can like push the geo out and clone that audience. Like they look, I guess the AI looks for, 8 or 10 characteristics. If it checks it out of boxes, it pulls them in and now they're added to my email list. So I have this whole like clone set of people I can reach that is already like a qualified lead. So it's a little bit almost scary what you can pull up from people.
Big Brother is definitely a little scary in the advances that we're seeing. So it's important to like be able to harness that for good. But yes, it's amazing, and there's so much continuing education that we can do about that, and to be able to use it to our advantages here.
Yeah. And some of it costs money, like
tourism industry in of itself.
The cell phone stuff I do and some of the data stuff, it costs quite a bit of money to get, because a lot of fairs, it's out of their reach as far as being able to farm. But that's where you can help by bringing it to them, because I have it, but it's incredible the data you can get. Mm-hmm. Well, I can't believe I've been talking to you for an hour already. It's crazy. I feel like we barely touched on anything, but I think you're going to do some great that you already have, and I think you're going to continue. It's nice to have some fresh perspectives on things, and I hope you just continue to knock it out of the park.
Well, hopefully Mother Nature is listening and we'll be on the payroll again this year.
That's always the thing, but being in this business a long time, it's almost comforting in a way that people are so scared about weather, and it's true, weather's a problem, but it's almost never that there's a disaster, like that you're down 50%. You never hear of a fair being down 50%. It just doesn't happen, because people find a way to go. You get enough days. So okay, if you have a bad year, you're down 10% or maybe even 20% on a disastrous year, but it's not as catastrophic as we have in our mind that it could be. It just doesn't happen, unless, like I said, there's a hurricane, you have to close, or something along those lines. But I find that kind of comforting that it's people figure out a way to go one way or another.
Absolutely. August 7th through the 17th. Hope to see you then.
There you go. I hope I can come, actually, August. Yeah,
we have an airport here in Springfield. You can fly right into us.
I'll be in Cincinnati for a tennis tournament a few of those days, but maybe.
Come and check out our pickleball tournament.
Yeah, I don't like pickleball. Table tennis or tennis. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for your perspectives, and best of luck to you at a fantastic year. Keep up the good fight over there.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming. This podcast is brought to you by Innovative Ticketing is the ticketing source made for the amusement industry. Our staff of professionals can guide you through your setup, assist with customer service, even on the weekends when you most need it, and help increase your sales through promotions that work. Innovative Ticketing is the ticketing source made for the amusement industry. Sign up today at innovativeticketing.com.